I'm here with Will Wallace out of Archer, lefty arm, and an outfielder. Will, man, appreciate the time.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
So you are a two-sport athlete. If anybody hasn't seen it yet, you had this ridiculous catch where you hit the ball twice in the air, end up catching it on your back there inside the 10 for the Tigers. What's the aspiration for you at the next level? Do you want to be a guy who's playing two sports, or are you focused on one primarily over the other?
Yes, sir. All throughout my high school career, I've been thinking about playing both, and I visited up to VMI recently, and they've been talking to me both ways. So I'm pretty much, that's what I'm set on doing, whichever one I can do.
What's the transition like for you to go from baseball to football? Do you see things that kind of tie the two of them together, or how do you approach both sports?
Definitely the explosiveness of the game, especially in the outfield. You gotta, especially as a receiver, you gotta get out your break and you gotta break on the ball. So it pretty much goes hand in hand.
And there's the route running, right? I mean, in football they may be a little bit more defined, but in baseball, in the outfield, you're trying to take the most efficient route to get to the ball. So there's some similarities there as well.
For sure.
So let's talk about you on the baseball field. I mean, certainly you talk about the speed, which you can do, in the outfield, on the base pass. Where do you feel like your strengths lie in terms of being a baseball player?
My strength being a baseball player is definitely my routes on the ball and being able to break and read the ball easily, and then definitely my base running. I feel like I'm a very smart base path runner, and I always put the balls in gaps so I can just make plays. When
you head into your senior season, you still got a little bit of time here. What's the focus like? Where do you feel like, okay, if this happens, I can be where I want to be as a ball player?
Definitely just above 400, just to average above 400. That's what I'm going for this season, just to be consistent through my swing.
Yeah, I mean, exit velo into the 90s, obviously, from the lefty side there. When you're at the plate, I mean, what's the mentality? Are you guys a guy that hunts fastball, or are you a guy that can read spin? Like, what's the approach for you when you get into the box?
I feel like I can read spin, but I really just go in there, hit ball, and that's all that goes through my mind. Whatever I see, just turn and hit it, take it the other way.
I always like to know about people who've influenced a player along the way. So, if it's coaches, somebody you watch on TV, who do you see when you're like, man, that's the way you get it done?
Actually, my mom, she played softball, so when I was growing up, I would go to the Sunday softball leagues, and she was always a hitter, so I just wanted to be just like my mom.
That's pretty cool. Tell me though about coaches. Like, who's made the real big impacts on you getting where you are today?
My varsity head coach, that he just recently left Archer, but Coach Danny Daigle, he was a big impact on me coming in as a freshman, and believed in me to play varsity. Put me in for a playoff game, my first freshman game, and it was just a real moment that he gave me, and he's mentored me throughout.
You're a guy with a pretty chill, low-key personality. How do you handle pressure? Is the heart rate pretty consistent for you, or how do you handle that?
Yeah, the heart rate's pretty consistent. I'm not really like a amped up type of guy. I normally just keep it chill and just go with the flow.
All right, being a two-way guy, I want to see these grips. I want to see the swing breakdown. We're going to push you through all the rigor. Sound good?
Sound good. So first thing I do before I step into the box, I always make a cross, because I'm very Christian based, and I just got to thank the Lord before I get into the box to help me do what I do. And then when I step in, I always tap it once. I get my foot a little bit uneven, because I'm more of a backside guy, so I try to close myself off. And when I get into my swing, I like to keep my back shoulder real tight at the start, and then get into my scat when I load, and keep the back head up. That way I can come straight down to the ball, so I get quicker through the zone. So usually it's more of just the feel, come back, and I load this back hip, and then explode through, and then come down on the ball and drive through. So first I started with a two seam, and I like to put the pressure on the inside so I can get more spin on the ball, let it run away from the batter. And then I got a four seam, pretty basic. And then my curveball, I like to do a knuckle curve. I really snug up in there, and I come down just like a sledgehammer. And yeah, that's pretty much all my pitches.
Well, man, thank you so much for doing that. I appreciate it. If you're not already, make sure you follow LakePoint Sports on all our social media channels. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube to get so much more happening here on campus.